Um, uh, Under the county administrator, this will be a state of our county presentation. Want me to just kick it off?
Go for it.
Okay. So the theme is failing to plan is planning to fail. We've last year implemented Vision 2050 to look forward and to plan forward in the county. That is on its way, along with several other cities that are doing similar, cities and townships that are doing similar activities to see what Lake County can look like in the future. We have a senior study going on that you're going to tell us what the best use of the funding and how we can take care of our seniors here in Lake County. Had great interest in how many people wanted to actually do the study when we went for RFQ. And so how many were there, Jason?
13.
13 different people applied for that. So I think that's going to work out pretty well. It's been the year of construction. Lake County's Sheriff's Office, the Safety Center, is well underway. I got to tour it yesterday. It's definitely a different view from the third floor, or the 2.5 floor, or whatever. But they are moving right along. They're pouring today with the goal to be buttoned up before it gets too cold. And it's good to see that they're putting time in on weekends to reach that goal. We're going to talk about the Public Defender's new office, 41 East Erie Street. Jason will get more. We will talk about budget and looking forward. I want to thank my colleagues here for this year. It's gone by really fast, and I think we've done a lot, as we'll see in this presentation today. And we couldn't do it without a cohesive plan in our county leadership. Thanks to all the electeds and county leadership. You see a picture of them here. They've gotten on board with our budget neutral. Is that the word we're using?
Yes, sir.
Budget neutral concept that we're putting forth here, and wholeheartedly couldn't do what you're going to see today without all these people agreeing to it and participating in it and listening to us. So I think it's a testament of us working together in a way that people see that good leadership can make big things happen. So that leads me right into Mr. Boyd's going to take over from here and get down deep in the weeds a little bit.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. First off, I want to thank Summer for all her help on this morning's presentation. Introduced a little technology this year. Your interview with the sheriff and public defender clap so that I don't have to talk the entire time. So Summer, thank you very much for assisting with the presentation. The State of the County presentation will be posted online for folks to see afterwards. I'm sure it'll take down the web with all the hits it'll get. Just want to thank everybody for helping me out. Last year's initial first ever State of the County presentation headed by Commissioner Plechnik was more of a general overview, county governance, elected officials. We took a fairly deep dive in all the county agencies. This year's a little more focus on planning and construction, highlight some of the work briefly, construction at Randy and telecom, etc. And we'll spend a good amount of time at the end of the presentation on the jail and where we stand and moving forward budgetarily. I'm very grateful for the leadership the commissioners have shown this year. The past 3 to 4 months with everything coming in and out of Columbus and DC has been challenging, but your professionalism in these meetings and to staff has been great. So thank you for that. The folks on the 4th and 5th floor, Jen and Kathy and Natalie and Summer and Kristen, Aaliyah, etc., and Joel and Zach's folks on 4 are a tremendous asset to the commissioners. I just want you to know that. I know you see the folks on 5 all the time, but Joel's got a really good staff down on 4. And then I'd be remiss, Commissioner Regovich mentioned the elected officials. These are the county commissioners, department heads, who do a lot of work behind the scenes, keep me informed, make my life a heck of a lot easier. Those individuals on the board, Jen, Joel, Randy, Suzanne, Mark, Dave, Rodney, Paul, Joe, Dave, and Tim Miller, represent 270 years of experience here in Lake County. So you have a really high quality team that make the county engine run very effectively. So jumping right into, I know former folks who used to work here used to give me a hard time because I would say I'm a planner by trade, and that is accurate. My degree is in urban planning, spent my first part of my career in the Planning Commission, and really tried to get a couple plans off the ground in the early 2000s. They just did not have the support from the Commissioner's office. And so David Radacci, the Planning Director, brought this to your attention late last year, actually right about this time, and the Commissioner said it's been 60 years since we had a countywide master plan, and we have changed dramatically since that time. We issued the RFP in November. We received 3 responses. And went ahead and selected Envision as our consultant, and they've done a great job thus far. This project is managed by David Radacci, and the principal at Envision is Ryan Smalley and his team, and they've done a great job. So I'm going to spend a few moments going through where we are and then where this project will end over the next 6 to 8 months. This is just a timeline of the first couple of of the Vision 2050, as Jen says, with the hand movements. The first couple months have been a significant amount of public input, interviews with local leaders. And as we've discussed over the past, Lake County is geographically unique. I would argue from Mentor, Mentor, Paynesville West, we have a different, thank you, sir, geographic makeup, land use, etc. And then you go Paynesville points east, we have a more rural, suburban, rural feel. So we have 2 different stakeholder groups. We have a West End group and an East End group. And the dots on the screen represent the number of meetings we've had to date, in addition to some individual discussions with the commissioners, local mayors, and so on, to make sure that we are getting the ultimate buy-in. I do think it's important to note that this is a county plan, and we have all respect to our 23 communities and their independent comprehensive plans. We will not override those. I know Mentor is in the middle of their plan. I think Mentor on the Lake completed one. So there's other communities who are working. This is a more global document that will support their growth initiatives over the long run. Looking at phases where we're at today and moving forward, we're going to start looking at land use patterns. What do we want to look like in 20 to 30 years? We had a discussion at a stakeholder meeting 2 weeks ago. Randy was in it about utility needs. We've talked about if we run sewer lines or water lines, if you build it, will they come? There's some debate to that. We had a pretty lively discussion on where do we want sewers, where do the communities want sewers, water, etc. That'll be focused on in phases 3 and 4. A lot of folks talk about economic development. There's no doubt that's key. One of the notes we've heard in surveys is don't forget about our existing businesses. Economic revitalization and maintaining the base we have. The commissioners know this, Joel knows this. We have a significant manufacturing base. We have some big players, don't get me wrong, but a lot of tier 2, tier 3 suppliers in the manufacturing chain that are critical employers on the Lakeland Boulevard, Tyler Boulevard, Hammond Parkway, Beidler on the west end of the county. So we can't forget about retaining those businesses that we have. And I'm happy to see that the local leaders and residents have noted that in some of our survey responses. Public outreach is key. Credit to Dave and Envision. We've got about 1,000 touch points with residents through our outreach at the Willoughby Arts Fest. It's one of our large summer festivals. They had a booth at the county fair this year, and they also, to try to get the reach on the west end, were at a concert in Madison. As it's shown on the screen, 926 responses. And that is just so folks see us in the community and they can talk. We had maps set up, they could pinpoint and put their concerns and ideas noted in real time. These are just a couple quick high-level slides on economic development. What are we hearing? Obviously, attracting new businesses are key, but I was happy to see the third ranked is working with existing businesses to retain and attract. Once again, I think everybody wants to get the new corporate headquarters, et cetera, and that's great, but in our land use environment, we need to keep what we have. What are we hearing with housing? I don't think there's a surprise here, single-family homes, but what was refreshing to me is the bottom. It kind of jives with what we're hearing. I could talk about is senior living. We know that's a need. I think we hear that academically and professionally, but the residents are seeing that too. And I would argue those folks who are responding are probably at that stage of their life where they're needing to downsize, et cetera. So we're starting to see things that I think we know internally are reflected in our citizenry as well. That'll help us make land use and zoning code decisions down the road. This is just a quick chart of as we get into phase 4 of developing our goals, which will be our overriding driving factors. So we're looking at expanding housing choice once again. You know, I would argue back, 30 years ago, apartments were had a negative connotation to them. I think you look at communities, I live in Willoughby, there has been an influx of new apartments and they can't build them fast enough. And those heads, those people are supporting the local businesses. So I think expanding the housing choice is critical for our young professionals and seniors. And then we talk about workforce development, government efficiencies. I know when Commissioner Beveridge took office, we talked about can we ensure that our nonprofits are working in the most efficient manner possible. So we're going to take a peek at how our nonprofits can work a little bit more effectively as well. And this, I think the staff will get a kick at this. I always say, I like to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. I'm not expecting anyone to read this, but this is a mind mapping exercise that us planners do to see what we're hearing and start to group these and figure out what has weight and what we need to take a look at. So this exercise is music to my ears. This is where Joel and I differ completely because he's a spreadsheet guy and this is a whiteboard exercise. But this is the level of thought and mind mapping that goes into a master plan of this scale. What do we want to look like? Future land use types. Why we are predominantly built out from Menor Points west. We do have some green fields and future development opportunities. So what do those communities want to look like? Do they want suburban neighborhood, which is shown in the top left, which is your typical larger lot cul-de-sacs? And then you have traditional neighborhoods, which would be kind of like the Willowick and Wicklifs of the world. You have a downtown Willoughby, you have mixed use, you have rural residential, which I would argue is a South Perry, Leroy, South Madison. So as we look 30 years down the road, we want to ensure that those communities have the tools to achieve whatever use they'd like to see. So we'll start to map that on a global scale once again, not to overreach our scope on what do communities want to look like down the road. And once again, there's a utility component to this too. As we or private folks run water and sewer, that development pressure mounts. So we need to make sure that if that's what they want, that we call for it in a very global, respectful manner. So, transitioning to the strategic planning and needs assessment for our senior services. I always say this. Commissioners, we talked about this morning a little bit before the meeting. Out of all the responsibilities that I have, the maintaining, addressing, servicing our senior population is one of the most difficult tasks that we have. We know that our population continues to grow. Matter of fact, this slide, if you look at the first couple bullet points, about 70,000 residents are a senior, 60 and over in our community of 232,000. 11% of those are over 85, which is a different need as an active senior versus an older senior. We rank 10th with the largest 60 and over population. And our senior levy, which maintains its term until I think 2027, brings in $4.6 to $4.8 million on an annual basis. Aaliyah will be presenting to the senior panel in the next couple weeks on what 2026 funding looks like for the future. What we need to get a better handle on is sustainability and making sure we meet the greatest needs. And that's the reason that we put an RFP out. Earlier last year, we received 13 firms, which in this discipline is great. I was worried that we weren't going to get a lot of takers on looking at it on a senior demographic analysis. We shortlisted that to 4 firms and ultimately selected the Osgood Group. They are a fact-based organization, which is exactly what we need as we look at what does this study yield over the long term. I'm not going to read all of these on where we're at, but I think if you look at line item number 3, evaluation of the current levy funding structure and development of recommendations to make this a more sustainable model for the long run. I think there's going to be a lot of truth in this document, which we need, and it's probably going to ruffle some feathers long term. We have traditionally funded our senior centers who do a great job. 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, we started to fund adult protective services, a guardian program through the judge, some housing initiatives, all of that with the same amount of funding. right? And so the pie is going to continue to be the same and our needs grow. The goal of this plan, and I'll read a statement from Aaliyah. The goal is the strategic plan will ensure strong strategic oversight and coordination of aging services while positioning Lake County to respond quickly to emerging needs, adapt to demographic community changes, and strengthen long-term sustainability. That is the overarching goal with this study. And there's going to be recommendations in here with facts and input from community leaders and folks who lead senior organizations that are going to drive a fact-based decision model over the long run. So this is a very important study. I don't know if Aaliyah's here for managing this with the group. She has a standing Tuesday meeting with the group. I attend about every other one. Beginning in November, commissioners, you'll be have a sit down with the president of Osgood to get your input. And I would say there's every bit of probably 50 to 60 one-on-one interviews that are going to occur in November, and then there'll be a community-based senior survey as well to get.
Mr. President, I was able to stop in briefly to one of those meetings with the senior group and our strategic planners, and the question he posed to all of them was, if 20 years from now there was a newspaper headline talking about the success of this effort, what would you want that headline to read? And that was the exercise everyone went through. And my response to that was, as always, we may be the smallest county geographically, but we're #1 for seniors. You know, I want Lake County to be the best place, not just to live and work, but to retire, so that folks don't feel the need to go to Florida or leave their home in their golden years, that they actually can stay here with their family and friends and have the best possible retirement in Lake County. And I believe that that's where this study is going to take us.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Commissioner. And these two studies tied together. And a few slides ago, we talked about housing choice. And what we're hearing from the seniors is lack of housing choice for them. So these, I think we're going to see some similar themes in a demographic and strategic needs study and the countywide comprehensive plan. So I think the timing of these, as the slide says, failing to plan is planning to fail. And I think both of these will set the county up for success over the long term. So,
And by the way, I think we need to attribute that quote properly, Benjamin Franklin.
Fair enough. Here's where we are briefly. As Commissioner Plechnik indicated, the firm has already met with our panel. They have been in the field at all the senior centers. They did meet in October with the coalition, so those are the entities that the levy funds. One-on-one interviews are about to begin, and then we're looking at a spring to summer completion date for your consideration and adoption. Moving on to some brief highlights on some construction activity in our utilities division. Once again, Randy beat me to it. Mr. Armand said something last week about your staff last week. They did a heck of a job out in the field, but just real high level stuff here. Last year, between water, wastewater, and solid waste, which is the landfill Randy shop, completed about $16.5 million worth of improvements throughout Lake County. Randy, I forget, your goal was 8 or 9 miles a year of pipe. We're not there yet, but that's where we want to be to stay ahead of our underground infrastructure. So thanks to utilities and the work that they have done over the past year. Stormwater management, I just highlighted a few projects in the townships. Tim's guys contract and collaborate with the townships and all their member communities for community identified stormwater needs. Stormwater does not know political jurisdiction, so having a stormwater management utility allows our communities to work much better collaboratively. Just last year with these projects that are in front of you, we're looking at about $1.1 million worth of stormwater improvements in these communities. That's just Concord, Madison, and Painesville Township. Buildings and grounds, Mark or Lou aren't here. These guys and gals are the kind of the unsung heroes behind the scenes, from custodians to laborers to guys and gals working in the jail and the building. And there's a list of projects up here that they've worked on. The big thing that we focused on this year is where can we manage projects internally so we don't have to hire outside consultants. And Mark Eifelis and Lou Hall have done a phenomenal job this year on a couple large projects by managing those in-house, scheduling the contractors, doing the walkthroughs, managing the architects. And I want to put a big shout out to those guys, because that probably saved us a couple $100,000 by not having to bring on a third-party project manager. One of those projects that Lou in particular helped shepherd along with Public Defender Vanessa Clapp was the new home of the Lake County Public Defender's Office located at 100 West Erie Street. The county acquired, this is the former Burgess and Nyepel building. We acquired this in 2024 as a result of the Sheriff's Office project, because this Public Defender's Office used to sit at 125 East Erie, which is now probably about Chief Izzo's office when you look at where it sits today. This property became available, needed some upgrades. We did an RFP, brought in Town Center Construction to do the upgrades, which just recently completed 2 Fridays ago. There was an open house. And I've got a 2-minute video with Vanessa Clapp to walk you through this project and some of the cost considerations that went in and why this was such a proactive purchase for the county.
I'm Vanessa Clapp, Lake County Public Defender. My office represents people who are charged with crimes but can't afford to hire private attorneys. The attorneys in my office handle the majority of criminal cases filed in all of the courts in Lake County. Our previous offices were located in a building across from the current jail for nearly 40 years. But once it was determined that the new safety center would be built where our offices were, the county had to search for new office space that would, number 1, be large enough to accommodate our staff, and 2, was within walking distance of the courthouse and jail. The location of the new offices turned out to be perfect. They are a mere 5-minute walk to the courthouse or jail. This enables us to get where we need to be quickly. However, renovations still had to be completed in the new building to make it suitable for our use. Although it had 9 offices, we had to add 16 new offices to house attorneys and support staff and to address confidentiality concerns. We worked closely with Lou Hull, who was the project manager from our Buildings and Grounds Department, and an architect to design the layout of the office. Bids for the renovations were completed to ensure the project was cost efficient and met state standards. Changes were made to the lighting in the building, and the window blinds were added to make it as energy efficient as possible, and one of the bathrooms was made ADA accessible. The building also had 2 small conference rooms so that we could meet with our clients, families, witnesses, and others in a private, secure location that was confidential. It also had 1 large room that we turned into a conference room for staff meetings, in-house trainings for attorney and staffs, and for mock trials. An added bonus to this building was that it also had a large file room. In years past, we stored about 50,000 case files at various locations in county buildings. Now all of our case files are located in-house. This eliminates security and confidentiality concerns, as well as a scramble to find an old case file when it's needed. Funding for these renovations came from the county general fund. However, there were significant cost savings to the county because the vast majority of the costs were reimbursed by the Office of the Ohio Public Defender, since we practice indigent criminal defense. Most of our clients come from our local communities. They find themselves in a difficult situation for various reasons, and they need our help to navigate the criminal justice system and their return to their communities. Having a safe space in the heart of the community allows us to do our jobs more efficiently and effectively. This office building is our forever home. It's durable, well constructed, it will last for years to come, and there's even some room for growth in the future if need be.
So I think one of the important takeaways from this investment by the commissioners, number 1, is it is a long-term solution and home for the Public Defender's Office with room for expansion. And news to Joel and Zach's ears, the project was $941,000, and only $126,000 of that was a general fund obligation. And thanks to the state of Ohio and the partnership with the Ohio Public Defender's Office and their reimbursement strategy, they were really great to work with and made this a very easy project. And thank you to Vanessa and her staff. Due to the timing, they were in there during construction, so there was a lot of movement and temporary housing, et cetera. Very excited and proud of this product. And quite frankly, I think Joel's used this over the number of years. We want to be an employer of choice, and having a nice state-of-the-art facility, that's an attraction to bring high-quality employees to our county. This is just another example of that. Moving down the street, we still have work to do on the exterior, but in 2023, for strategic purposes, we acquired 41 East Erie. I used to call that the Cannon, Stern, and Benny building. A couple other firms were in there. This is directly adjacent to the Lake County Juvenile Court. Mr. Colson has his 4D attorneys in there and staff, and was an ideal solution for some of the growth needs of Mr. Colson and their attorneys. Once again, Lou Hall managed this particular project. We have $130,000 worth of office renovations on the inside. Completely redid the HVAC for $1 million, put a new roof on the project, renovated all the office spaces. These pictures do not do this justice, with all due respect to the previous owners. It had been a bit dated. So we went in and freshened it up in paint and carpet, ceiling tiles, etc. I want to thank, we also piggybacked on the Lake County Engineers paving program this spring. We were able to save some dollars, so thank you to Mr. Exley and his project management team for allowing us to piggyback on the paving contract, which saved us a couple bucks. Once again, Lou and Mark manage this project in-house for us, so a great savings to the county. And we will continue to work on the exterior facade of that over the next couple years. That's a budget-dependent improvement. Telecommunications, Paul Stefanko and his guys are always behind the scenes, but have had a busy year. We finished the completion of our West End sirens. Those are our emergency sirens that are activated should they need to be. The county is responsible for about 53 of those on the West End, $1.5 million investment. Our phone system, believe it or not, is about 15 years old, so it's nearing the end of useful life. Paul and I and Joel have worked on some bid specifications. We've had some displays, or what would we call those, Joel's? Demos, thank you. 2 or 3 demos with various types of firms. So we're getting close, hopefully by the end of the year, to have a recommendation on the commissioners on where we go with what will be a $1.2 to $1.8 million investment in our phone system. We have 2,500 phone extensions in our system, which includes some community partners such as Madison, Concord, Painesville City, Health District, to name just a few. Our fiber network, years ago, we installed a fiber network here in downtown Painesville. Due to the jail project, Paul's guys had to reroute that fiber line to ensure connectivity on our loop as the jail came out of the ground. Continually, as we acquire buildings or elected officials, department heads have needs from cameras to access control, Paul and his guys go in and make those enhancements. A big thing that Joel and I have been working on with Paul is our Marks radio system. We are one of the, I think, the only entities that manage our own component of the statewide Marks radio system. We've had some conversations with the state of maybe having them administer that, because we have some significant costs looking at us to the tune of $6 million. We think we could transition that over to the state, reduce that risk exposure of a cost, and also lower the fees to those folks who use the Mark system. So more to come on that particular topic. Hopefully we have some decisions by the end of the year for the commissioners to consider. Emergency Management Agency, this one goes back a bit just to give you some history. The EOC, opened up with the Perry plant, is at that place in its useful life where mechanicals, fencing, lighting were in need of upgrades. And I remember this like it was yesterday. It was just before COVID, and Congressman Joyce did a tour of the site, and we were having this conversation, and Congressman and his team said, hey, you should apply for this FEMA DHS grant. And Joe and his team went to work, and ultimately with a 25% county match, we were awarded $1 million to do these enhancements in-house. So you can see there, our total expenses, we only spent about $800,000, but once again, the takeaway out of $800,000, $199,000 was the county. So once again, leveraging other external dollars to minimize general fund obligations. I'm not going to read all these, but pretty much the inside on the EMA side was updated: the kitchen, bathrooms, the ops room, the AV, some mechanical upgrades, structural upgrades over the generators, just to secure long-term sustainability to arguably our most valuable asset in the county, after the sheriff's office, of course. Here are just some enhancements of the kitchen area on the left, the break room on the right, which the break room on the right can also be mobilized as to a third conference room if we need be, with the AV that was installed. The photo on the left, the commissioners know this is what's called the executive room. If there ever were to be a need to activate the EOC, this is where the commissioners and the sheriff, Director Busher, and key personnel would mobilize to be briefed and make informed decisions for the protection of Lake County citizenry. Thank God we're not hardly ever in there, so that's a good thing, but it is there. We do all of our Perry drills there, And we have all the technology in the world in there to connect to whatever we need to connect to. On the right is the larger command room, the work room, where if there is an event, if there's a peri-plant drill, each table, each seat there is assigned to those folks ranging from Highway Patrol to Randy. JFS has a seat, OSU Extension, County Engineer, you name it. Everyone has a role should something happen at the peri-plant or a natural disaster, etc. So the facility is equipped, the new technology, we're in a good spot for the foreseeable future. Thank you to Congressman Joyce and his staff, and Joe Busher for his staff on the enhancements to the Lake County Emergency Management Agency. Okay, moving along, and I'm going to give a warning that we're going to hear from the sheriff here virtually. I don't know if he remembers that we did an interview with him a few months ago, but I want to spend a good amount of time on Lake County's largest ever investment in the general fund, the Lake County Sheriff's Office. And just do a quick reminder here, the slide in front of everyone on the screen is our site plan. We have a 3.5-story structure, and the sheriff will get into this in some of his comments. Since we last met a year ago, we now have total site control of the entire area. The area shown here that's to the left of the sheriff's garage, that single family home was purchased by the county. We will be raising that structure at the end of this year, early next year, to make room for the sheriff's garage. So that's a positive news from where we were last year. But I just want to kind of set the stage of where we are with the facility, how we got where we are. Everyone kind of remembers what this looks like, I hope. But I wanted to once again note the relationship with the city of Painesville. From the council, the manager, their planning and zoning folks have been fantastic to work with. All approvals are now in hand, from zoning to the Department of Rehab and Corrections, and we are well on our way. This is the facade looking from, let's say, Conrad's, if you will. We'll just quickly move around the building. Hopefully, this would be looking from the back of the courthouse. The juvenile court would be to your left of this particular view. One will note, this does not look like a sheriff's office or a jail. We took great respect to the downtown core of Painesville, Morley Library, and tried to incorporate architectural elements that mimic what the city's trying to achieve long term. So the brick patterns, the sandstone material mimics the Nolan building and some of the features on the administration center. This is looking at the rear of the structure. This might not seem appealing, or people are wondering, why are you showing these semis at the back of the building? We do not have at the current facility a loading bay, so the sheriff's team are constantly having semis deliver darn near daily. This will allow the guys to minimize deliveries. We have storerooms, large kitchen, cold freezer areas. So I think it's important to know the functionality, and the sheriff will note this in his comments of what this new facility will bring to the operations for the sheriff's office.
My name's Frank Lambrino, and I serve here as the sheriff of Lake County, and I am honored to be part of such an amazing staff of individuals who meet the safety and security needs of our community. We have a great project company in Gilbane that is building this facility and ensuring that its bones are created correctly. And we have a good architectural firm in K2M that is managing the design of this facility to meet the needs of the future. Lake County has taken the step as well, and I can assure the community of this, that it's not just one person coming up with ideas. Since 2020, we have been working on a new jail design, getting people's ideas from across the county, whether that is in buildings and grounds, whether that's telecommunications, whether it's our own corrections staff, our deputy staff, whether that is our finance offices. Every area of Lake County has had input into what this facility looks like, what its needs are, and how best we can meet those needs. That has expanded 300% since its opening a little over 30 years ago. Further, the current structure today is such that it's deteriorating fast. It was poorly built and poorly designed. One of the options was to remodel and expand. by expanding means to add an addition to the jail. Those costs would have exceeded $100 million at current pricing. Further, an addition would require an additional staffing of about 15 officers. Over 40 years, or really 30 years, that would cost an additional $40 million a year in salary and benefit payments to staff. What are the current challenges? First of all, lack of bed space for future needs over the next 30 years. Further, the current facility was built at a time when computerization was just coming onto the scene. There were no ADA requirements for compliance, nor addressing some of the issues of mental health or medical needs at the time. In the new facility, which is roughly 504 beds, we will bring the existing staff from the current facility to the new facility. By not raising staff, by not increasing staff in a larger facility through physical changes in terms of how the building is laid out, we will save millions of dollars over the next 30 years in terms of staffing costs. Some of those changes are a revised booking area, areas where we can bring people to mental health areas, an enlarged medical services area to meet the needs of a changing inmate community with much more complex medical issues. Looking at 378 inmates, roughly half of them have either drugs or alcohol or mental health issues, and all of that combined. The majority, I would say 90% of our jail population, once they're done with their stay in our facility, return back to our area community here in Northeast Ohio. It is our goal to return people back to the community better than when they first arrived. Well, the Lake County Sheriff's Office is not only a jail, but they are a detective bureau. They're an investigative agency. We are a law enforcement agency that serves 88 square miles and roughly about 60,000 people in our townships, our unincorporated areas. And so our facility will have adequate space that our current facility doesn't have for staff to do interviews, to write reports, have meetings. We also will have additional classrooms where we can hold a police academy that we can train our own staff in, train our own corrections academy staff in. All these areas are critical to make sure that we can meet the safety and security needs of Lake County for many years into the future.
So first off, Sheriff, thank you very much for taking the time for that video. We had to cut it from 6 hours to 4 minutes, but that's a story for another day. I thought he did a great job of providing a ton of input, and Summer had a fun editing that. But seriously, thank you. He gave a great historical perspective of the challenges, the considerations that we faced a few years ago on do we rehab or add, and I thought it was timely that we could show you the time lapse of where we are today. I have another a video here in just a moment, but just some interesting fun facts on the jail. 57,000 man hours to date with Gilbane and their team, 205,000 blocks. I'm not going to read them all. We had a crew there this morning at 9 o'clock pouring concrete, 285 tons of rebar. We will have 249 prefabricated steel cells that will be coming up from Georgia at the beginning of the year. Matter of fact, the sheriff's team is heading out there in January to take a peek before full-scale production of those steel cells occurs, and then we'll see those guys rolling in. Like I said, I think in March or spring, I'll say, the cells will start to show. So Sheriff and his team to date, we're at meetings once or twice a week. Thank you for everybody in the participation. It's going really good, and a lot of that goes to buy-in. We used this saying a couple years ago. It's a need to versus nice to on some of these decisions that we make. the sheriff has been very responsible in what he needs in the facility as respect to the taxpayer dollars, so I appreciate that. This next, this is a drone image that was flown last week. So I'm going to kind of narrate through. This gives a real-time perspective of where we're at. I know Commissioner Regovich was there yesterday. Commissioner Beveridge and I are heading out today. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll this, hopefully. So this imagery, Gilbane flies every other week for quality control, for safety on the site, to help with their time management. So like I said, you can see the date here is October 27th, so that was 2 weeks ago. You can really start to see the skeleton mimic the renderings. The first floor of the facility is, the front left is the sheriff's admin. When you walk in, the new entryway, the front right portion of the building will be corrections. And the back half, so on this screen of floor 1 where it's not concrete, that's where the secure side of the shop will begin. Floors 2 and 3 are strictly cells and prisoners up there. This is looking from behind the building. You can see the utility plant at the bottom of the screen. Our crane will be leaving probably Friday, the yellow crane you've seen there, and we'll have our steel topping ceremony next Thursday at 9 a.m., which is a significant achievement for the project. There yesterday, we're starting to see metal studs show up on the walls, which is a huge benchmark, so we can start to wrap the building to provide winter provisions and continue work. That image you just saw was the loading dock. At any point in time today, there's probably 50 to 60 workers on site, especially when we have a pour, which we had a concrete pour this morning. They're probably still working. So where are we at budget-wise? So this was the budget we adopted a year ago, $204 million. We are right on budget and hope to have really good news come the end of the year. The hard cost budget is $170 million, as you can see at the top line. And then our owner cost, we have a couple contingencies baked in that we'll have to use some of it. But in having a budget discussion 2 weeks ago with Sean Noble, our project manager, who's doing a great job, and Ellis Katz from PMC, you know me, I'm a little nervous when it comes to the financial side of things. I said, Jason, a project of this scale and where we are at as far as, and I don't like the word change orders, but just things that you don't see or things that we need to tweak, we're in a really favorable spot. So I'll have a more in-depth financial update for you by the end of the year, but it's hopefully going to be a good news update. Schedule-wise, this is hard to read. Like I said, we are going to finish the concrete pours plural, hopefully according to Sean, by the end of the year, which is level 0, which is the basement. We are bringing in temporary heat as we speak. The contractors will essentially wrap the building via a combination of concrete masonry walls and temporary plastic so that we can continue to work through the winter season. I also want to thank Enbridge Gas. Due to the volume of gas needed here, Enbridge has been great. They're going to be pulling a line from further down Erie Street, about 2,000 feet, and that construction work started yesterday. And in completion, I say spring, summer of 2027. That has been consistent. I look back at my notes since 2023. That was kind of the original time frame that we were provided, and we're sticking to that. So in conclusion, I think the sheriff and the chief would agree. We're hitting our benchmarks. Knock on wood, we haven't had significant issues. If we do have an issue, we'll sit in the room across the street with 15 or 16 folks, from electrical engineers to HVAC contractors, and we'll come to a very cost-effective yet sustainable solution as we move long-term. So I'm happy to report that our largest investment is on time and on budget moving forward. Which leads me to, I'm going to get into the budget stuff here with the county. I think this is very important. I had this same slide last year, full disclosure, on the commissioner's office and the vast amount of responsibilities that you have. Most importantly is financial control and oversight of the county budget. You appropriate those dollars on an annual basis. Joel and Zach and the entire team on 4, as Commissioner Regovich noted, that collaboration we've seen the past couple of years with the electeds on a budget neutral philosophy has been welcomed and appreciated. So I want to note that. You guys are also responsible, the commissioners, for maintenance and responsibility of all the structures and facilities. We do that with our buildings and grounds crew that 10 years ago had 110 employees. Today they have about 47, Joel, 45. So once again, doing more with less, and thanks to Mark and his team for cleaning and maintaining, et cetera, all the structures within the commissioners. Jen, what's the number of boards the commissioners appoint? You guys are responsible for appointing commission members, task force, to the tune of 50 different organizations, which can be oftentimes difficult to manage. I think most importantly, and what the commissioners past and present have charged me with, is collaboration with our local officials here in the county and our mayors and township trustees. And I think Randy does an excellent job with that, Suzanne, on being able to pick up the phone and call the mayor of Lakeline or a township trustee, and having that open line of communication just makes our lives a lot easier. So I want to thank you guys for setting that stage on a collaborative effort with our local communities. Our budget, 2025, is strong. Just as a reminder, the county collects a 1% sales tax. Some of our other investment earnings, which have been strong as well, thanks to Treasurer Zurin and the auditor and Meter, who's our investment advisory group. I think we have a good understanding of what the next couple of years look like as far as investment earnings and how we can relay that earnings to our jail debt. And I'll note that our general fund budget for 2025 is $76 million, and we also have seen a consistent stable sales tax revenue the past few years. We've had above average interest earnings. A lot of public sector agencies have. Second bullet point is critical. The commissioners have always stressed the importance of public safety, and that comes with a price, deservedly so. Our general fund budget is represented by about a 69% ratio of public safety. That includes law enforcement, the judicial system, the public defender, and so on. 2025 was our first year of required debt service on the jail, which we initially estimated. I look back, Joel, 2 years ago, we were like in the $8 million range. As we fine-tuned the project, it was in the $7 million range. I think it's important to note, and Joel noted this a few weeks ago, that the commissioners, collectively the county, through conservative budgeting, were able to pay down $25 million in notes this year, right out of the gate, which is very impressive, and kudos to everyone here at the county. We're going to have that same mindset heading into 2026. I've got full confidence in Joel and Zach and being very conservative to help us once again continue to pay down in excess of what we're required to do.
Mr. President, I just have to highlight this because just a few years ago it was said it was impossible to build the jail, which we now call the Safety Center and Sheriff's Office, without raising taxes. And not only have this Board of Commissioners accomplished that incredible feat, but we're paying down the debt service faster than anticipated. So I really want to give kudos to my colleagues and thanks to our staff, because building the jail without raising taxes is exactly what our residents and neighbors need us to do in an era where government has to be more efficient.
Thank you. Just briefly as a reminder, we also have the outside general fund, about $326 million. So in Randy's world, wastewater, water, solid waste, those guys do a great job. Suzanne has a myriad of funding line items that she manages, from state resources to local levies. So your department heads who are in charge of managing a budget do a great job. I don't care if it's inside fund or outside fund. We also have some internal service funds, which is our healthcare and things along those lines. Just briefly, I'll conclude here with the next couple slides. This is a look at 2024 year-end revenues. And you can see by far the permissive 1% sales tax is our largest driver on the revenue side, and that holds true for counties throughout the state of Ohio pursuant to the revised code. The light blue on the left is our investment earnings. You'll see is our second largest revenue source. On the expense side, once again, I noted the judicial and public safety is represented green here on the pie chart. About 27% of our budget, the county general fund, is judicial and public safety. Think about that other 27% of general government. So we're talking about the treasurer, the auditor, planning commission, the recorder. You guys are effectively managing those agencies, and great thanks to their cooperation on 25% of the total budget. So I think that's a kudos to everyone involved in making that happen. Sales tax, we continue to be steady. 2024, we saw our highest level, approximately $49 million. We're probably on a good track here in 2025 to maintain that projection, which is critical to our long-term success here as far as maintaining a high-end, effective service model for the county and servicing that debt that we have. At that point, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Regovich for a look forward.
Thank you, Jason. Great work on this, and great work all year long. We in Lake County are lucky to have you. Your planning background, we kind of take that for granted, I think, sometimes, but you're able to look at things differently, and I think the most genius thing you did was keep the sheriff under 4 minutes. So that's a fun way to do that. But looking forward, our $6.4 million annual payment for our jail will continue as we move along. We paid $25 million down in notes, as we stated, and I have it in good faith that we're going to try and do something similar for 2026. So hopefully next year at this time, we sit and talk about how our notes may be paid off or close to paid off. So, which saves millions of dollars moving forward for the county. We do this by our maintaining our staff neutral budgeting. With that, we have reduced the 2025 budget heading into 2026 by approximately $1.8 million. That is a testament to working together, as Jason said, and I know that makes Commissioner Bevers really happy. I think he came up with the staff neutral. But, we have other capital improvements going on to the tune of plus or minus $1 million. We're focused on long-term projects, roofs, sewers, things that matter. With that is that we have to finalize our ARPA projects. They have to be spent by the end of 2026. We have to finalize those, making sure that all those projects there are moving forward, and that goal should be done by end of 2026. If not, we have to make some moves before that to ensure that we spend that money in a wise and appropriate manner. So we're going to actively monitor and provide local feedback on various federal and state legislative items. What's the future of property taxes? So we sit here today making all these decisions, not knowing what's going to happen at the federal level, any kind of cuts, certainly not knowing what's happening at state level. That changes daily, it seems. Are we working as effectively as possible? We're going to make a bigger presence in Columbus and Washington. We've dedicated that we're going to do that just so that we know what's going on there and they know how we feel with the policies and the things that they're looking at this time. And that may take it deeper into CCAO, our organization, making sure we have those talks with people and know that we're not surprised about much. So we will identify all potential funding sources that way too, moving forward, so that we get the best for Lake County. We're also in-house is complete enterprise-wide building permit software. This is going to allow our billing department, engineers department, all to work together. So when somebody needs to pull a permit on the builder side, contracting side, it's a seamless, hopefully more expedient manner in doing that, where they can track it via computer and know what they have to do in front of them. So I'm excited about that. I think it's well overdue, and I think it's going to streamline how we get things done. I hope it does that. So we have to plan for the demolition of the current Lake County Sheriff's Department. Don't know what that's going to be like yet, but we're going to work on that, and whether it's a parking lot or what else we put there, we'll do that. We're going to have our countywide phone system upgrade, which is going to be a significant upfront cost, and then hopefully save money moving forward by doing an inventory of the phones we have. Who needs a really sophisticated phone? Who needs a simple phone? It all depends on the use of it. I'll tell you now, I need a simple one. I don't know what all those buttons are for anyway. So, but that's a good way to whittle down what we have to pay for that, and it's like Jason said, that's a necessary evil here that we have to do. Is keep up with our phone system every 15 plus years or so. We're going to complete the completion of Vision 2050 and the senior study are going to be big for us. It's going to allow us to make those decisions moving forward to the best of our ability and be very open about the decision made and the input we get. So I'm looking forward to those being done. We will continue to do our emergency planning strategies with our commitment with the nuclear power plant. We have learned to never say never. I've participated in those exercises, even though they may seem mundane, and sometimes they're very important to know when an emergency happens. And it's not just a nuclear emergency. It's any kind of emergency, a weather event, anything that could possibly happen in our county. The people who are in place know their role, and we can move forward and act quickly and decisively. So that's floods, train derailments, multiple house fires. We've seen all those. Solar eclipse, and now COVID were major letdowns. So I would like to remind everybody here, everybody that's watching, that our newsletters come out quarterly. Look for information on there. There's a code, or you can also go on our websites to find out what's going on. And again, I'd like to thank my colleagues for a quick year. So now Commissioner Beveridge can stop saying he's new. And we can continue to work well together, I think. Looking forward for the future. So thank you, gentlemen. And thank everybody for listening to us today. And our second year in a row for our State of the County. Any comment, gentlemen?
Mr. President,
Yes.
my closing comment would just be to thank you and Commissioner Beveridge for your leadership for Lake County. It's truly been an honor to serve with you both. I think that Commissioner Beveridge's prioritization of government efficiency has really yielded dividends in the form of not only cutting our budget and applying those savings to paying down the jail faster, which will result in ultimately less interest expense and more revenue for the future. But I think it's really set an example for all state and local government of what can be done when you really do take the initiative and look at everything top to bottom. His fresh perspective has really made a huge difference in this year, and your leadership as president has helped to bring us together in a very collegial and beneficial way. We have some very difficult issues to consider as commissioners, and we certainly discuss those issues seriously, but I feel the extraordinary respect that each of you has for the office, and it's truly a pleasure every single meeting, every single debate and discussion to be sitting next to you. So I just want to reiterate to all the residents of Lake County how blessed they are to have Commissioners Beveridge and Regovich representing them.
Thank you.
I mean, you have to say thanks, John. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate that. I really do. But yes, I thank you, Jason and Summer, and all the other folks that were involved in putting this together. As a commissioner that does this job every day, it still is educational, and it still is important to sometimes sit down and take a look back as well as look forward. I am thrilled, Jason, that you were able to put together a plan or a study, if we will, in less than a year, and with hopefully less than $100,000 of cost. As is sometimes frustrating as a still new. I still get to say I'm the new commissioner for as long as
You're on a clock.
the three of us are here. But yes, I appreciate the fact that these conversations, these studies, taking a deep dive into some of these topics are important to do for the community to make sure that As we've said multiple times here, we have to do our best job to get the information that we can, when we can, as accurately as we can. And then, yes, we have difficult decisions to make. And I echo Commissioner Pleshnik's remarks that when three individuals that all share the same responsibility work together, then you can see the difference. And I think the community has reached out and has echoed that as well. And I appreciate the two of you. And I will save my comments on the budget for a future meeting when me and Mr. DeMar have finalized our conversations. So, thanks.
Thank you. So this brings us to old business, gentlemen. Is there any old business to come before us?